Marco, what was so hard about this test? It's nitpicky, specific?
Not reading it.
I cannot read.
Yeah, it was
I cannot read.
You know, the easiest day, Lauren, you know you had this glorious day coming up in your future? It's called the day when you take California standardized tests on U.S. history. You're gonna be like, after taking these really hard, nitpicking tests, to like have one which is clearly it and have it be easy, you're gonna like, you're gonna feel like Superman. You'll be like, I feel like a professional baseball playing with 8-year-olds. The AP exam, you should walk out of it. Lauren, here's my impersonation of Lauren walking out of the AP exam. First of all, her hand needs like ink all over it. It's like, well, that was doable. I think I did pretty well. I feel confident on that. Now I'm going to go to In-N-Out and stuff my face with my friends. And I'm going to go lay on the beach and fall asleep. Okay. Yesterday we went ahead and talked about the idea of Theodore Roosevelt as this mercurial candidate who would not take orders well from the Republican establishment. So, as the semi-obnoxious governor of New York, let's put the guy someplace where he can't go ahead and cause us any more grief. Let's give him the most worthless job in the country. Let's make him vice president of the United States. Then, President McKinley's assassinated in 1901, and he's president of the United States. What's he going to do? He's going to go ahead and assert, Eric, go ahead and start. He's going to assert his authority over Congress, playing a positive, dynamic role as leader of the country and not allowing Congress to basically run things. Okay? That damn cowboy is now president, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Okay? So there it is. Okay? He's going to go ahead and change the nature of the presidency in the 20th century. Now, when you look at him, okay, in terms of the paradigm, Amanda, have Theodore Roosevelt, the new nationalism in quotes, and then go ahead and talk about a fair deal, in quotes, a fair deal, and then talk about the 3 C's. His policies, in terms of what he wants to go ahead and do, become known as the new nationalism. The first one is control of corporations. The second one is consumer protection. And the third one is conservation of national resources. The 3 C's is the easiest way to go ahead and remember the policies of Theodore Roosevelt. Now keep in mind that Theodore Roosevelt was not that impressed by people who were wealthy. These big business people who seem to have been in charge of the Republican Party for a long time, they were going to have difficulties with Theodore Roosevelt. Not that they hated him, and not that Theodore Roosevelt hated them back, but he was going to go ahead and keep them more at arm's length. He wasn't simply going to do their bidding, as it seemed like presidents have been doing for a long time. Even Democrats like Grover Cleveland. In the Pullman episode, people could sit there and say, it seems as if the government is in the back pocket of these business people, right? So control of corporations, consumer protection, and conservation of natural resources. Okay, that's the way, is the easiest way to remember this information. Please go ahead here, Otto, read the first one.
In a letter to a British friend, he observed, I do not dislike, but I certainly have no special respect or admiration for and no trust in the typical big-moneyed men of my country.
Right? These people don't impress me. It seems like Rockefeller and Vanderbilt and Stanford, the whole country is kind of mesmerized by them. Oh, they're so wealthy, they're so powerful. That kind of stuff did not really faze him that much. Johnson, read this one.
It tires me to talk to the rich man. You expect a man of millions, a head of a great industry, to be a man worth hearing. But as a rule, they don't know anything outside of their business.
Cindy, question?
Was he okay with Carnegie, though?
Hold that question for a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Joe, read this, please.
Corporate cunning has developed faster than the law of the nation state.
So the idea is that if cunning has grown faster, the laws have to catch up with these people. If these people think that they're above the law, that they can craft the law to suit their own purposes, they're going to have another thing coming with Theodore Roosevelt, because Roosevelt's going to sit there and say this: if your business serves the country in a positive way, then all the more power to you. But if your business becomes antisocial, if it actually hurts the people of this country, I'm going to go ahead and go after you. And again, it wasn't so much that he wanted to he wanted to raise the poor, but he wanted to go ahead and humble those people who are bullies, right? Sooner or later, unless there is a readjustment, there will come a riotous, wicked, murderous day of atonement, a day of revenge. For example, I think Theodore Roosevelt would have said this: you know what? If the average worker feels as if they don't have a chance, if they're used to the U.S. Army coming in and shooting at them during strikes, who can blame them for becoming communists? The entire system is basically kind of corrupted from the beginning up. So what he called for was a reform effort which would go ahead and have a fair playing field for everyone. not a corrupt game which seems to benefit these people from the very beginning, but we're going to have to change things to go ahead and make it work better for all people. Because if that doesn't happen, who can blame workers for becoming communists and becoming enemies of the state and wanting to go ahead and blow railways up and things like this? You have to have a reform effort, and he's going to lead that reform. When I say I believe in a square deal, I do not mean to give every man the best hand. If the cards do not come to any man, or if they do come and he has not got the power to play them, that is his affair. All I mean is that there shall be no crookedness in the dealing. No crookedness in the offset. For example, Rockefeller has a secret deal with the railways to go ahead and get rebates, to go ahead and lower the price of him getting his oil to market. Where is that fair? His rivals don't have this secret deal. The railways cannot go ahead and have these underground, dark understandings with other companies. Everyone has to go ahead and understand the transparency of prices to make sure everyone can go ahead and get a fair shot. So again, what is he going to do? He wants to pass laws to go ahead and outlaw many of these corrupt practices, right? For example, take a look at what happens here in the 1902 anthracite coal strike. In the coal mines of Pennsylvania, the people had gotten together there in their union, and they're getting ready to threaten a strike. Now the problem is, if they go on strike and there is no anthracite coal coming out of the earth, in places like Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and New York City and Boston, it's going to be really, really cold. The cities use this coal to keep warm during the winter. So what happens? Theodore Roosevelt issues an invitation to the people who own the mines and to the union to come to the White House and talk about this thing and settle it. Okay? And the owners didn't even really want to go, but you don't get an invitation for the president and turn it down. So they show up in the White House, and Theodore Roosevelt says this. He says, you represent the owners of the mines, you represent the workers, I represent the people of the United States of America. Let's sit down right here and figure this out. Right? And that was different than before, because before it seemed as if the president was almost automatically on the side of the business people. And he says, no, I represent the American people. Now we're going to go ahead and hammer this out for the greater good of this country. And after one full day of negotiations, the owners were not willing to go ahead and compromise at all. They had that older Gilded Age vision that was like this. It is our own private property. We can do whatever the hell we want with our mines, and we're not going to compromise a bit. Right? And those days were pretty much gone. In fact, at the end of one day, Theodore Roosevelt said, if it weren't for the dignity of my office, I would have grabbed the owners of the mines by the hair and thrown them out of my window. The next day, they come back, and Theodore Roosevelt said, okay, that's the point of view they had, right? Like George Baer. He basically said this. He actually had a quote that sounded like this. He said, God, in his wisdom, has given us Christian men ownership of the mines, and we'll make our decisions based on what's best for everyone, period. The workers have no say at all in their conditions or pay. Well, if you say that, who can blame the workers for wanting to blow your mine up? They had their lives working there also. Theodore Roosevelt saw this. So what Theodore Roosevelt decided to do is this. He said, owners, if you don't go ahead and compromise on this issue, I'm going to go ahead and seize control of the mines with the U.S. Army, and I'll have soldiers go in there and get the coal out so people in the cities don't freeze in the winter. You see what he's doing here? He's threatening to break the owners. Before they used the army to break the union, he's actually going ahead and saying, owners, I'm going to go ahead and break you if you don't go ahead and show some flexibility. Not surprisingly, they went ahead and compromised with the workers, and the strike was settled. And they went back to work getting more money. But this is a major moment. This is a major moment. Government seems like it's actually taking the side of the workers in this one particular strike. And that has everything to do with Theodore Roosevelt. Yeah.
Isn't it against the Constitution to do that? Like that Supreme Court case already decided that.
But I think what Theodore Roosevelt would have said, he said this. This is an emergency. People are going to freeze. In this emergency situation, screw the law. I'll do what I have to do to get people some coal.
But corporation would know that it would be unconstitutional. But
Remember Andrew Jackson? They went ahead and said, hey, your Indian removal policies are unconstitutional. And he said, John Marshall has made his decision, let him enforce it. In times of crisis, the law becomes more flexible. Look at this cartoon right here. Is this a positive portrayal of what Theodore Roosevelt did in the strike? The famous big game hunter, cowboy Theodore Roosevelt? I think it is. There was this horrible strike going on, and it was Theodore Roosevelt who had the power to go ahead and resolve the strike. Did the people of the country appreciate what he did? Yeah. Yeah. He used the media to go ahead and portray himself as having been the person who resolved the strike without it getting into this kind of pitched warfare kind of situation between workers and soldiers, right? He easily is reelected in 1904. Easily reelected. He's a popular president. The people like his vigorous leadership. So you can see him up here, the idea of a vigorous president with vision, with leadership. You don't want to confront him, okay? So things like this, and I'll tell you right now, Seychelles, the DBQ, the clock towards the DBQ coming up, the next one that really counts, started yesterday. The DBQ is going to be at the end of the progressive unit on progressive politicians. So things like this you want to have in the back of your mind. In the public interest, for the public good, a square deal to strengthen the state, to have new laws to take care of the people and to promote the general welfare. More democracy. In those places where there are these corrupt dealings or this understandings which don't serve the people between wealthy people, take the light of publicity and go ahead and clean out that infection of bacteria which grows in the dark corners. Have more democracy, more openness, so people can go ahead and have better government, less corruption. Government as an agency of human nature. So take these things down under control of corporations, the first C. The first two things have to do with laws which were always on the books, but Republicans had never enforced them. For example, the Interstate Commerce Act, which went ahead and set up the Interstate Commerce Commission, has the power to regulate railroad rates. It always had that power, but the presidents before then had never used the power. Or the Sherman Antitrust Act. It allows the government to go ahead and break up businesses which become monopolies. They had never used it. It always had been on the books, but it had never been used, and now it's time to start using them. The Hepburn Act of 1906 and the Elkins Act of 1903. What do these two laws do? They make it illegal to go ahead and have secret rates for some customers, not for others. It's going to regulate the price which railroads use to charge from going from place to place. And it's going to make it illegal to give politicians free passes to travel on railroads. Right? Otto, if you're a politician and I'm a railway operator, if I give you a free pass to travel wherever you want on my train, does that mean, me giving you that, does that mean that you have to vote in favor of my interests as a politician?
More or less.
More or less. Where's the difference between a gift and a bribe? It's a gray area. So it makes it illegal to go ahead and give free railroad passes to politicians, cutting down on corruption. This one right here is the most important one, the Northern Securities case. Everyone, pens down, pens down. What happened here is J.P. Hill and J.P. Morgan, this hugely powerful banker, they went ahead and bought a whole bunch of railroads together and made this giant super railroad. And in one whole part of the country, the only railroad that you can go was on his. Right? Again, competition's a sin. They don't want competition. They want to get a monopoly interest and then increase prices to make a profit. Theodore Roosevelt took a look at this situation. He said, what? This is not right. Theodore Roosevelt, and this is an important idea to hear loudly and clear. Mikhail, you going to hear this? Theodore Roosevelt was not an enemy of capitalism. He was not an enemy of big business. Even if you had a monopoly interest, he wouldn't necessarily come after you unless you abused your position, unless you started raising prices and abusing the public trust. If you did that, if you had a monopoly and you began to jack up the prices, then for sure he would come after you. And he would try and break up your company with the Sherman Antitrust Act. And that's exactly what he did here with J.P. Morgan. He went ahead and sued the Northern Securities Railroad. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. J.P. Morgan said, wait a second here. Why didn't you simply go ahead and send your man to come talk to my man, and we could have made a deal? Why do we have to take this to court? And Theodore Roosevelt said, you fundamentally don't understand the relationship between us. I am not another business person like you. This is not a business deal. I'm the president who's representing the people, and you're violating the trust of the people with this issue. So I'm going to sue your ass. And then J.P. Morgan said, oh, I can afford very, very expensive good lawyers. And Theodore Roosevelt said, I also have lawyers working for me. They're called the Supreme Court. There are 9 of them, and they're on my side, right? And that's exactly what happened. The Supreme Court upheld Theodore Roosevelt's power to break up this railroad into smaller ones which would compete against each other. So they took this monopoly and they forced it to be broken up. This is the first time that the Supreme Court has said that the power of the government can extend to breaking up a giant monopoly. Okay? A couple years later, Theodore Roosevelt decided to retire from politics, to go ahead and only serve 2 terms. And actually, he only served 1 term of his own. He served most of the term of McKinley, and he decided to go to Africa to be a big game hunter. Right? That's his vacation. That's what he was going to do, which was fun. And when he did that, J.P. Morgan said, let every lion do his duty. Good luck to the lions in eating Theodore Roosevelt. I don't like him. Theodore Roosevelt probably sit there and say, fine, I don't care if you don't like me. I'm not your friend. I'm your sheriff. I'm the person who goes ahead and makes sure everything is going to be fair. This thing was not fair. So what you see here is the beginning of a lot of momentum towards government regulation of business in the public interest. Read this, please, from Michelet. Good loud voice.
Roosevelt was a policeman. He detested bullies. The foul-mouthed gunmen he had seen terrified